The Financial Times reporting new Chinese energy efficiency rules that could prevent local companies from buying some of NVIDIA's best-selling chips. Joining us now with more on NVIDIA and some other mega-cap tech names. As the first quarter comes to an end, Wang, Constellation Research founder and chairman. What does that leave as an alternative, one of the deep-seek, low-power ways to get AI? It doesn't sound nice to tell companies they can't buy NVIDIA. We don't want to buy an NVIDIA chips anyway.
Well, here's the deal. Actually, these NVIDIA chips are being sold through intermediaries in Singapore and in the Middle East. So they're still getting to the chips. They're just not getting as many of them. And so that's one of the challenges that's going on there. So
what is China really doing here? They're worried about using too much power? That's not what it is it?
Well, they're not worried about using too much power. They actually have a very low power rate. They're actually operating at 2 cents per kilowatt hour. We're operating at 8 cents kilowatt hour. They have an amazing energy advantage over us at the moment.
Why? Because they use coal?
They're using coal-fired, nuclear. They've got geo, and they also have hydro, right? So they're damming up. They're doing hydroelectric better than anyone else.
So the importance of NVIDIA to the overall market, I don't think you can overstate that. So has NVIDIA made a bottom, and is it ready to reassert leadership and take the market higher, in your view?
I think the overall market has been waiting for tariffs, and that's been the overhang. But once we get out of it, I would say it is at a bottom. If you look at the PE ratios, it's at 40 versus 36, which is its all-time low. And I think it's going to go back up. Part of the reason here is because, they're making 6 of the Mag 7 are paying for NVIDIA to be able to get into AI. You're also seeing it on the other end in terms of Blackwell chips versus what they were able to do with Hopper chips. They sold 3.6 million Hopper chips, Blackwell chips, over 1.3 million Hopper chips. So they're definitely getting traction, especially where they're going on the chip side. Plus, they build moats everywhere. You're seeing moats around CUDA, which is the software layer. You're seeing moats around how they do connectivity. And they're also got moats in terms of where the chip design is. So they've got a product roadmap for the next 10 years.
What can go, can anything stop this train, in your view, for NVIDIA or AI in general?
Yeah, a couple things can be as we get more actually efficient with inference versus training. That's going to be one. And TPUs. If you look at a company like Google, they're using TPUs to do all their internal stuff. So these tensor processing units, these TPU chips.
Did you think I knew what that was? Did you know? Tensor processing unit? He just calls them TPUs. I know what a CPU is, but.
Oh yeah, we go from CPUs to GPUs to TPUs, and what's happening is Google uses tensor chips, and those are a lot more efficient than GPUs, especially for solving a lot of the problems they're doing. So that's what makes Google interesting, because they're vertically integrated from chip all the way to AI.
Who's the closest competitor? Who's doing something that's the closest, the most likely to be able to catch up NVIDIA at some point? And if so, how far down the road would that be?
The sad news is it's 3 to 5 years out. If you say AMD is close, they're not even close. Right? But the question is, will you need these kind of high horsepower chips in the future? And the short answer is hopefully not as much.
It just seems hard to think that we won't need more computing power, no matter what happens. It's just always been a demand that's continued to go up.
We're going to need more and more compute, especially when we're at the edges, right? AI is going to move to the edges. AI is going to move to your devices. This is why it's interesting when you look at a company like Apple. AI is going to happen on your handset. So
let's say no company in China can, they can't get intermediaries to sell them NVIDIA chips. What would happen?
They're just going to get more efficient at using chips that are not going to be NVIDIA GPUs. You look at Huawei. Huawei is about to create a whole bunch of chipsets that are going to be trying to compete with NVIDIA. But still, it's the fab manufacturing. It's the whole piece. They don't have all that yet. So we're still about 5 years ahead of China right now in terms of AI chips.
Well, it'd be good if we could stay 5 years ahead.
I don't know if we're going to stay 5 years ahead. That's really the challenge, because we've got leakage through Singapore and the Middle East at the moment, where they're getting the chips and trying to reverse engineer.
So they will do that, won't they?
Well, if you put demands on, right, innovation is really coming from the, necessity is the mother of innovation, right? And that's really what's happening.
So they'll reverse engineer the chips. So they won't be behind for long.
Or they'll get really efficient at calculations, like DeepSeek. So when we thought about DeepSeek, right, it wasn't the Sputnik moment. It was the Napster moment. They took our code, stole it, and gave it away for free. Right? And they're going to continue to do that. But what it did was create this open source piece that everyone in China is starting to go open source with it. So Baidu went open source. You saw Tencent went open source. So everyone's going down that route.